She's alive! Alive!
Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of
The Bride of...
Alternate Ending.
Dear ghouls and goblins, we are gathered here today to celebrate the union of podcasts and horror movies. On this episode of Bride of Alternate Ending. Hey, I didn't even have to change the name to make it fit the theme.
Hey, that's really great. I didn't even think about that.
Thank you. I am your ghost, Brennan Klein, and with me, that other voice you've heard, is your co-ghost, Tim Brayton. How are you doing today, Tim?
I am doing so unmarried. How are you doing today, Brennan?
I am unusually married. This is the most married I've ever been on a recording of this podcast before.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you. Yes. I did get married in March. Woo. For the record, I'm excited about the marriage. The wedding itself was, the wedding was great, but planning the wedding was a nightmare. And we cut as much as we could. We kept it as shoestring as possible, and it was still just a lot to do. Anyway, for the next 3 months, we are doing kind of a unit on Newlywed Horror, so I can be prepared for what is to come to potentially try to survive the next couple months of my marriage. To Ben, by the way, I've mentioned him before. He insists that he has fans who demand that I mention him more. So that's a little treat for you all out there, the Ben fans. But anyway, we put up for a poll what Newlywed-related horror movie we should pick, and the Patreon members picked, I think maybe the one that least fits our theme, but the title fits really well, or at least the English language title.
Yeah, I will say that was one of my big takeaways. The title is a lie. It is a lie twice over, in fact.
I think, well, we will talk about it, but the title in question is Hatchet for the Honeymoon, the 1970 Mario Bava picture. You had not seen this before, had you?
No, this is a Bava that it was not one that I had previously seen.
Awesome. Same for me. Although I think I've seen less Bava than you. I would hazard a guess.
Probably. It's also, it's not like a very obscure Bava, but it is certainly, in terms of visibility, it is not higher than the B tier and may indeed be on the C tier. So I think it's a Bava film that Bava fans know about, but it's not a Bava film that people come to early on.
Yeah, because what are you watching first? You're watching Bay of Blood. You're watching Blood and Black Lace, Black Sunday. There's a lot of other stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I would frame it this way. There is a box set available from Scream Factory right now of just basically a whole bunch of Mario Bava films. This one's not in it, and some stuff that is, I think, definitely more, some of his Westerns are in it.
Hmm.
So there is a slight visibility question with this one, I think.
Huh. That's interesting.
I had heard of it certainly, but I think mostly because the title is so good.
It's a good title.
Hatchet for the Honeymoon is a great title. Way, way better than the Italian title, which is The Red Sign of Madness, which is a good title, but Hatchet for the Honeymoon is just better.
Yeah. And unusually, obviously, usually the original Italian titles are better because those Italian titles tend to be so lurid and poetic. But I think Mario Bava uniquely has better titles in the later cuts.
Certainly, I think Bay of Blood is the go-to example of a film that has multiple Italian titles, or multiple English titles that are better than its Italian titles. It has multiple titles in each language.
Oh, yeah. But
one of the English titles is Twitch of the Death Nerve, which is one of the best titles any movie has ever had.
Yes. That I specifically paid way too much for a DVD copy of that movie because it was a Twitch of the Death Nerve copy. Yep. Yeah, but the original Italian titles for that were Ecology of a Crime and Chain Reaction.
Chain Reaction, I think, is the quote-unquote most official title. Mm-hmm. But neither one of them obviously is as good as Bay of Blood or Twitch of the Death Nerve. But there's the third English title that's also quite good, but I can't remember it offhand.
There is Last House on the Left Part 2 is one of the titles.
Well, that's definitely not the one I was thinking of.
Okay. It is funny because it came out a year before Last House on the Left.
It's amazing how that works out.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that Last House on the Left is a prequel?
Yes, of course. Yeah, whatever. I was going to make a Virgin Spring joke, but who has the time? Anyway, yeah, so we're here to talk about Hatchet for the Honeymoon. I think it's safe to say that we both probably have fond feelings toward Mario Bava. Would you say that's correct?
I certainly do. He doesn't live in my heart the way that Argento does, or even at this point I'd say the way that Sergio Martino does.
Mm-hmm.
But he's clearly, if you like Italian horror, you like Mario Bava. I don't think it's possible to like Italian horror and just be like, ooh, that Bava, he's a lame-o.
Yeah, I think, you know what, that's what it is. I think maybe Bava is more of like, he's a filmmaker who walked so Argento could run, kind of, because he was
so.
More of an early adopter / shaper of the giallo.
There are people that say he invented Jolly, and I don't know if that's a thing that you can like pinpoint. This is when the genre was invented, but certainly The Girl Who Knew Too Much and Blood and Black Lace are like the two films that opened a door for other films to walk through, I would say.
Yes, certainly. But yeah, so Mario Bava, really important. Also just, a really stylish filmmaker. I think Twitch of the Death Nerve is so sumptuous to look at.
I would say that he is the most beautiful Italian horror filmmaker, even more so than Argento, who has some very beautiful films. But Bava's films are just on another plane in terms of just what they look like.
Oh yeah. So we have this really rich history, at least heading into Hatchet for the Honeymoon. So I guess I'm curious, do you feel like, at least at first blush, do you feel like, you're sitting there watching the movie, do you feel like this is a Mario Bava movie? I'm experiencing the same kind of things I normally get from him?
I mean, I don't know if you'd plopped me down and said, guess which Italian horror director made this. I don't know for a fact I would have come up with Bava. He would have certainly come to mind. There are some very striking sequences. I would say across the entire length of the film, I was maybe expecting slightly more consistently Baroque visuals than I got.
I completely agree. I mean, you do get a ballroom full of mannequins, as is your want.
And ballroom full of mannequins is certainly one of the moments I was thinking of.
Yeah, and I think for me, for this movie, I think the style's very good. I think it's pretty much there. Like I think I agree. I could have, if I was going into the sight unseen, I might have guessed it was like a Martino or something. But it feels Bava. It doesn't feel Argento. It doesn't feel Fulci. It doesn't. I mean, Fulci's not really a stylist necessarily.
Fulci's got his own thing going on.
He sure does. But this felt like, to me, or at least maybe it's that what I wanted from the movie were different from what the movie wanted for itself. But in some ways, I felt the style kind of elided the horror in a way that doesn't usually happen with a Bava movie for me.
Interesting. I can see that now that you framed it that way. Yes.
Thank you.
I would say, did you read up on the backstory of this movie at all?
I read up a bit. I think you read up more than me because you brought up a tidbit I did not know in your Letterboxd review.
Which tidbit would that have been?
The tidbit about how they kind of built part of it around adding...
Yes. So what happened? There was an Italian actress named Laura Betti, who was like a serious actress. She was.
I recently saw her in Teorema, the Pier Paolo Pasolini movie.
Yeah, she's in Fellini movies. She's in Pasolini movies. She's in Bertolucci movies. She was, kind of working with these great important art directors throughout the 1960s. And apparently she hit a point where she felt that it was not fair that there was this like high-low distinction in the industry. And unlike many people who complain about that distinction, her complaint was that she felt that it was uncool that she was on the high distinction. Like she was tired of being like only in these art movies. So she won an award at the Venice Film Festival, the Volpi Cup, which is like the big acting award for Teorema. And she basically decided, I will never now for the rest of my career have anyone accuse me of being like I'm a serious actor. No one can take that away. I won this very prestigious award. I get to do whatever I want. Mario, I want to be in one of your movies. I want to be in your next movie.
I love that, actually.
Yeah,
like, that's such a
great.
cool instinct for an actor.
It's so great. So Bava hears the like ranking winner of the Volpi Cup telling him like, write a part for me in your next movie, and he's like, I will. So he was apparently at that point already in pre-production on Hatchet for the Honeymoon, and wrote not even just expanded a subplot, basically wrote a brand new subplot to be built around the character that would end up being played by Laura Betti in the film, which caused some issues because Dagmar Lassander, who, given her name, I'm going to assume is a Swedish actress, but I'm going to see if I can confirm that real quick. She's German.
Oh.
Dagmar Lassander had been told, you will be the female lead, you're going to get X, Y, and Z, and now you have this film that's basically half and half between her and Laura Betti, and she got like really mad. So she kind of tried to get out of the film apparently, but couldn't. So you have this like this complicated, first off, one subplot wasn't really integrated into the film because it was written at the very last possible minute. And then in the actual A plot, you have your leading lady sort of resenting the fact that she's in it at this point. So it's a film that I think I read all of this after. But I think once you have that in your pocket and you're watching the movie, it's like, yes, this is manifesting in the film. Especially, I think, that detail that the subplot around the wife, played by Laura Betti, is sort of glued onto the film and was not originally part of its narrative structure.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that's fascinating. I mean, and that makes a lot of sense. Like, imagine you're like, I don't know, some sort of up and coming genre or TV star who got a movie. Like, you're fucking Camila Mendes from Riverdale. And you're like, I'm in this crappy horror movie. I can't wait. And then they cast Cate Blanchett opposite you and you just have to deal with it. Like, I'd be mad.
No, I get it. No, that's the thing. Everyone in this story is reasonable. Like, it's reasonable that Laura Betti wants to prove she can be in, like, grungy movies. It's reasonable that Mario Bava doesn't say no to this offer. It's reasonable that Dagmar's like, fuck you, I was given promises that are not being fulfilled.
Yeah.
It's like, no one's the bad guy here, and that's what makes it kind of tough because, like, clearly this is an unhappy situation for all of these people.
Yeah, which is a huge bummer, and I think you maybe touched on this, but yeah, you can feel that a little bit in the finished project. Not that, like, I mean, you're not feeling it from Dagmar as far as her performance, but you're just feeling that the movie is kind of, if not compromised, certainly like being pulled in multiple directions.
I will certainly say that given what is happening psychologically in this film, and we'll talk about the plot, it's really weird that the main character is married.
Yes.
And that in particular is the thing that it's like, giving him a wife creates a set of problems that need to be solved that no one was even like thinking about solving.
Yes. Well, anyway, and that character we are talking about is John Harrington, played by Stephen Forsyth. He is a very famous wedding dress designer. He lives outside of Paris. And he is also a hatchet wheel. Not even a hatchet. It's more like a cleaver, I guess, if we're really being honest.
Yeah, it's when I said that the title has two issues. One of them is that there are in fact 0 hatchets in this motion picture, and there are 0 honeymoons.
There are, although I think, well, so I feel like, okay, so he targets two brides to be, so he talks about it as if he's killing them, but like on the wedding night. But then the way that it plays out, it usually happens like just post-proposal prior to the wedding.
It feels like he kills them after the first fitting for their wedding dress.
Yeah, it's a little confusing how his MO works.
I do not feel like these women are married. They are still pre-wedding at the point that they are killed.
I kind of felt like the one on the train was maybe post-wedding, like maybe they were heading to their honeymoon.
That could be.
But I think the scene beforehand suggests that it's before the wedding, and the scene after suggests that it's after, if I recall correctly.
So let me get this straight, Brennan. You're saying that an Italian horror movie is unclear on the content of its narrative.
Yes, and it's...
I think you're just being a hater, I gotta say.
Yeah, no, see, that's the thing. You really gotta put on a special set of glasses to watch an Italian horror movie sometimes. You
sure do.
Can't be watching to string the plot together, even though this is an unusually, and I'm saying it's an unusually...
It's lucid.
It's lucid. I was going to say it's an unusually focused plot for an Italian horror movie, even with all of the problems that it has.
I will say this about this film. Its nonsensical Freudian bullshit story and like what's going on in the killer's head is one that you can fairly clearly see coming the entire running time of the film, rather than in its last 5 minutes the killer's like, oh, by the way, this happened to me in my past, and explains every action I've undergone.
Yes, so that's something that's special. But also, I mean, I don't know. So that also kind of makes this is I don't know if this is a term coined by horror writer Brian Collins or just one that he uses a lot, but this makes it a hero killer movie where you're just in the head of the killer the whole time. And that can be a lot harder to make. It's harder to make that interesting for a slasher sometimes.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, especially one as diffuse as this, where they clearly have a lot of ideas that they're trying to jam into this character's mouth as dialogue, and I don't think almost any of them really connect to anything.
That's probably true. I will say, in terms of getting us into the killer's head, what did work for me, and I said this is a film that mostly does not feel like Bava made it, and then every now and then a sequence comes by where it's like, oh yeah, this is Bava. And one of the things that happens multiple times is, so we didn't really, the hook, as it were. I mean, I think part of the hook is just he kills women on the wedding night ±5, let's say.
Yeah.
But
there's a margin of error there.
The other hook, he's sort of like on a video game experience points quest, where every time he kills a woman, he like unlocks another chunk of the memories of some traumatic event in his past that he cannot access. And so he's like killing people because when he kills a woman, it reminds him a little bit of the thing that happened. And so we get a couple sequences where after he commits a murder, or sort of in the midst of committing a murder, we get these like very expressionist, abstract, like montage-y, really, like dream sequences, hallucination sequences, don't know how to frame it. But like you get these little like bursts of like graphic art in the middle of these kill scenes. I really quite liked those, especially the one where there's like a drawing of a woman's face being like kind of cut in half, like a Sesame Street animation. That
was really cool. That was a great visual.
Yeah, and it
was almost Terry Gilliam, like what he was doing for Monty Python.
Definitely a bit of that. Like, I mean, that's just kind of a thing that's happening in animation at this point in time. This movie's from 1970. So I'd say that gets me in the killer's head, in that the moments where the film seems to be the most locked into being a thing are those moments when it's most closely linking itself to the psychology of the main character. So I bought it. I was like, I'll let this be what the movie's nonsensical approach to human psychology is going to be. I'm not going to give you a pushback on that movie.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. It is, and it is kind of kaleidoscopic in a way that is interesting. I think that I really liked a lot of those sequences, but one thing that frustrated me about it is that, first of all, the thing that he's unlocking is so brutally obvious, like from square one, what it is.
Sure.
That it's hard to really care about that. And then obviously, like, by focusing on the process of that instead of the murders, you're also not getting to look at slasher style murders on screen.
That was the thing that did surprise me. The relative paucity of murders, and the fact that the murders we get are not it's not a slasher film. It's not a giallo. It's like wearing the clothes of those things, but it's really operating in a different mode. And it was one that I was not expecting, and I think I'll probably have an easier time with the movie from square one when I rewatch it, which I'm sure at some point I'll rewatch it.
Yeah.
But no, I certainly hear what you're saying, that it feels like it has made you a promise, and then it does not pay off that promise, nor even really pretend that it's trying to.
No. And that's frustrating, like, coming to it as a giallo and slasher fan. But there is a lot of stuff that does make it worth it just on an aesthetic level. Obviously, I mean, there's a really cool early on that scene in the train that I kind of teased. He's going to murder a bride of some kind, wherever she is temporally relative to her wedding night. He's going to murder her while she is in bed with her husband. But there's this really interesting sequence where he's walking down the kind of hallway of the train, and there's someone standing like in the background to the left, and it keeps cutting between shots zooming in on this person in the background and then like wide shots of the train with the killer creeping forward. It's a really unusual way to approach that kind of scene, and it was really transfixing to me.
Yes. And when you say that, it kind of makes me think of something that I've probably had this thought before, but I don't think I've expressed this thought publicly, and certainly I've never tried to pin it down. Bava's a cinematographer.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
he shot this. I mean, he shot a lot of his own movies. Not all of his own movies, I don't think. But he gets started as a cinematographer. He starts directing because on a couple cases in the late 50s, he was shooting a movie whose director became, for whatever reason, incapacitated. So it was sort of like, someone needs to direct this, Mario, you. And I think that's what makes him different than a Fulci or an Argento, who are certainly thinking in terms of really excessive visuals and like very florid, over the top color and composition and just kind of a weirdness in what's being put in the frame. But I think Argento is someone who, once he has come up with, this is the kind of shot I will use in my movie, he runs with it. Bava, I think, constantly wants to try out new ways of shooting. And I think you've given me kind of like access to that by talking about the zooming thing. I think that he is someone who's like, I made that movie already. I don't want to make it again. So even if I liked the thing that he made, he is, I think, less prone to retreading himself than Argento is, which is not a slam against Argento. I think Argento is one of the great filmmakers. But I do think there's that sense of like, what is the technological thing I want to do now? And sometimes that results, as it does here, in maybe a film that's less immediately exciting to watch as someone who's not involved in that technological process.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do think that aesthetically it is quite invigorating in quite a few moments. And I think that the moment where the movie really fully came alive to me, it is almost entirely because of the way that it's shot. Although there is some incredible acting too. And I am talking about, spoiler alert, the murder of Mildred, the main character's wife, played by Laura Betty. The murder scenes haven't been that interesting narratively so much, but this is a big one. This is the crux of the movie. It is the point on which the movie spins and turns into something else entirely. But there's just all this really exciting stuff going on in that sequence. There's a lot of material with the eyes of the two partners in this scene being reflected in the blade of the cleaver that has been brought out on this tray. He loves a reflection in this movie. There's also a reflection earlier on of like a smashed grape on this silver platter. But anyway, so you're seeing the eyes in the reflection. Overall, it's just very aesthetically pleasing. But also, Laura Betty, proved that she wanted to be here in that scene. There's that character's fear of being murdered by her husband is so twitchy and unusual, but also kind of blended with this sexual anticipation. It's a really, really good performance in a movie that I don't think otherwise has great performances.
No, I would agree that scene specifically, I think she's the best performer in the movie generally, but I think that scene specifically is clearly her best moment of performance as well, because you have those layers. I would add one that you didn't touch on. I mean, I think, yes, fear is there. Yes, sexual anticipation is there. I also think there's a level of contempt in her performance in that moment.
Every moment she's on screen is just dripping with contempt.
Oh yeah, like this is definitely someone who views her husband as a wormy little nothing, and like even in the moment she's going to die at his hands, still feels that way about him. Like he's just a scuzzy little nothing. I think that's part of it. I think that scene is probably the best part in this film, both on its own merits, but also in terms of like what promises a giallo makes to me, and that it is about the anticipation of murder, but it's in this highly stylized way. It's not just like a slasher film where it's kind of pornography. Like there's a dance to it, and really real paced. I think the way it's kind of not drawn out. I mean, this isn't like a 10-minute scene or anything, but it's delayed just long enough that we get that acting moment, that we get some of those kind of slow builds of suspense. Really superb scene. And I mean, I think it's, the other thing about Bava is he viewed himself as someone making Hitchcock films, not as someone making gory killer movies, which I think his successors were all like, well, that's what brings in the money. That's what we're going to do. I think that's another reason why Bava films are maybe slightly different texturally than like an Argento film or a Fulci film, is that he'll use gore because it's a tool in his toolkit, but I think he is I mean, he titled one of his major breakthrough films "The Girl Who Knew Too Much." This is somebody who is, and we'll get there with this particular film, which is also definitely in dialogue with a specific Hitchcock motion picture. But no, he thinks of himself as Hitchcock, I think, or at least a disciple of Hitchcock, and I think that's part of what we're seeing in that scene.
Yeah, I think you're right, and what you're saying about that kind of the contempt and the way that it's kind of that. Or just how that dynamic is. I think that dynamic's so present throughout the movie. Like, even though this character, Mildred, was added later, it feels like the whole movie pretty much is about the push and pull between these two characters.
You know, that's the thing that's interesting to me, because, like, on the one hand, you can absolutely feel that when Mildred's not there, it's not like she's an absent presence. It's like she's just not there because they didn't write those scenes with her being part of the script. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I really can't imagine what this film would look like without that character in it.
Yeah.
Because, like, so much of what fuels it is that relationship. Although I do think part of what's most frustrating to me about this film, story-wise, does get us to, well, the Mildred scenes were written fresh and the rest of the scenes were written kind of without the Mildred scenes being in the background. Because what happens in the back part of this story is that Mildred's ghost pops up. Spoiler alert. Mildred's ghost pops up and basically is like, "Hey, John, I'm here. Everybody thinks I'm alive. You can't see me." That's like such a weird hook. She comes to him just long enough to let him know everyone can see him, everyone can see her except for him. So everyone just kind of like accepts that Mildred's there and it's fine, but he knows that she's dead. And so what is he supposed to do with his like kind of looming literal specter? And I think that's such a neat gimmick. And it looks like the film's going to become that. And then it doesn't, except in the scenes when it is, if that makes sense. I know that's a very tautological way of framing it.
Yeah, well, so you're right. It does kind of just bounce back and forth because it is also a movie about him hiring a new model, and she ends up deciding to get married, and he's going to kill her. And turns out, again, spoiler alert, it was a sting operation for this inspector who's been on his trail. Because guess what? If you only murder the models who work for you, you're going to get caught.
Yep. The cops are able to detect that pattern pretty fast.
Yeah. But anyway, so that story really doesn't talk to the Mildred story at all, which is a bummer because the Mildred story is so much better and does take over. Like it's just more engaging and it makes more sense that that's the main thrust of this story.
Because the Mildred story is something that I don't feel that I've seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I'm going to kill my model to remind myself of my horrible trauma from the past. It's Psycho. It's just Psycho. Like, this is a movie, like so many movies that are very good, so many movies that are very bad. So it's not a criticism. It is just Mario Bava latching onto part of Psycho and making it the entire film. Because the trauma, kind of a spoiler, except by the 10-minute mark of the movie, you've pretty much figured it out.
Yep.
He killed his mom and her lover and then repressed the memory.
Yep. Congrats to him. And also another Psycho thing, he is briefly sort of in drag while killing. He is wearing a bridal veil when he murders his wife.
Yes. Which is also part of why that scene is so striking. And also possibly the only time that they actually like overlap the A and the B plots. Like at least explicitly.
Yeah. Oh, you might be right. Oh, that's so weird. Oh, well, but I mean, people at like his fashion show see her. Like there's a little, there's at least his worlds bleed together, if not the plots.
That's true. That's true.
I do like that latter bit where she keeps showing up to torment him and kind of cockblock him from beyond the grave.
Mm-hmm. I like that, and I wish it's what the film was. I wish that at the moment that he kills her, it just fully pivots over to being a ghost story, and it does not, because that's actually where the main thrust of the like Freudian serial killer plot kicks in. Because I might be wrong. I wasn't really thinking about it in these terms. I don't think we see Dagmar Lysander until after Laura Betty is dead. Is that possible?
At all? No, she shows up before Laura's
Does she? Okay.
dead. Yeah. Yes, for sure. Because Laura Betty leaves town to try and trick him into sleeping with her.
Right. That's correct. That's when he kills her. That's right.
Yeah, because she's trying to catch him in bed with her. But yeah, no,
It might just be that I didn't clock her as being the main female character because I was so invested in the wife at that point.
Yep, fair enough. Yeah, because she is kind of a giallo-y character. She's this plucky model who's showing up and kind of getting in this guy's hair, but no, she's just not as interesting. I'm so sorry, to Dagmar. The thing you were worried about, you should have been.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Wait, so is there? I've kind of lost the thread of where we are. Is there anything else you want to bring up, relative, good or bad, about Hatchet for the Honeymoon?
I mean, I feel like losing the thread of where we are is in the spirit of an Italian horror film of this sort. No, I think so. We've talked a lot about the cinematography, which is obviously very interesting. It's weird because, like, as you say, the plot is not very interesting, and it's not hard to get in front of it, and it's also not why we come to these movies. But I do feel like my main complaint about the film is a plot complaint, which is, again, that it's in its last third, it doesn't know whether it wants to be about ghost wife or plucky model, and it's just having a really hard time squaring those two things. And I do wonder, is part of why I feel more invested in the story's malfunctioning than I would in many an Italian horror film, is because visually it's cool in spurts, but it's not cool persistently. Like, it is one of Bava's less interesting looking films taken kind of as a whole, I would say.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it kind of defaults to just kind of, this is what things looked like in the late 1960s, rather than style coming from the filmmaker necessarily. Sure. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And then it's also just the thing of, like, the two movies that are warring, like, one is obviously better than the other one. So it just makes the other one feel so much worse, even though it's fine. So, yeah, like many movies that are at war with themselves, it's just, it's hard to fully invest in the thing that it ended up being. Yeah.
And I would say, did you have any other pluses or minuses you wanted to make sure to talk about, I guess I would say?
I guess, I mean, it felt to me like it was, this is on a similar tack, but it felt to me like it was more than usual for this type of movie, interested in kind of having themes and trying to explore them with us, and then just never really gets there. It just, it keeps just vomiting out all of this nonsense of, like, the inspector being like, ooh, a hothouse is kind of like the mind of a mental patient because it's about alteration of nature. And I'm like, is it? I can't follow you here. I'm so sorry.
I would say that more than typical for this genre, I found the cop character really just a waste of screen time. And I was not interested in him. I was not interested in his crime solving process. He was a bummer.
Yeah, he's a real milquetoast addition.
Yeah. And, like, they're obviously trying to get, like, a sort of cat and mouse thing where the inspector obviously knows a long time before he can do anything about it that John is the killer. And, like, there's leering shots, there's innuendo in the dialogue, there's all sorts of stuff. And so I think the goal was to get some sort of, like, battle of wits brewing, but I think that was one more plot line than this movie had energy to keep up with. Like, it's already trying to do the wife, it's already trying to do the model, it can't also do the cop.
And no offense to Mario Bava, but if we're talking about a police inspector in a Italian horror movie about models being killed, there is a movie from 1985 called Nothing Underneath. The cop is played by Donald Pleasance with a bizarre mustache. And he goes to a Wendy's and eats spaghetti at one point in that movie. Like, it's a very memorable kind of character and performance. I clearly need to
see this motion picture that I don't know for a fact that I'd heard of before this moment.
Oh yeah, you gotta see it. It's campy. Like, it's
you don't say. Donald Pleasance eats spaghetti at a Wendy's sounds at least camp adjacent.
Oh yeah, no, it's certainly worth it for that. It's a totally fine late
Okay.
giallo.
Okay.
But anyway, we're at the point where I'm distracted and want to talk about other things. So I think I'm ready to wrap up unless you have more you want to add.
I wanted to introduce a kind of other
Okay.
conversation, and hopefully it won't take us too long. This has been a pretty compact little episode so far, so I think we can go on a journey through a rabbit hole.
Take me.
So this is a co-production
Yes.
between Italy and Spain, and Bava, of course, is Italian. He's like one of the grand masters of Italian genre cinema at this point in time. But most of the rest of the production, other than just Bava himself, is actually Spanish. And I don't know Spanish giallo very well. I do know that Spain is kind of the only country other than Italy that has giallo as such.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's obviously crime thrillers in other countries, but they're sort of more considered part of the giallo adjacent world of proto slasher horror. Whereas I feel like Spain is generally considered to be like the little brother version of the Italian giallo cycle. And that's about as far as I know it. I haven't seen too many Spanish gialli, just a couple. But it does feel to me like this is a Spanish film more than it's an Italian film, and I think that actually shows up in some of the weirdness that we're talking about, because like that excessively Baroque style that this movie only has in like little bits and pieces, that to me is one of the things that distinguishes an Italian film. And maybe, I mean, that's not fair. There's plenty of Italian films that don't have particularly excessive style, Italian genre films like this. But I do feel like there's an attachment to having a lucid plot. There's an attachment to having kind of vaguely grounded visuals that I'm wondering, is that maybe the Spanish influence on this film? Is it really kind of more Spanish than the average Italian giallo?
Oh, I mean, I don't know that I can answer that. I think that's a really interesting question to pose, because I'm kind of racking my brains trying to think about like what kind of Spanish gialli have I seen, and I mean a lot of them just come up in my 1980s slasher project, so I haven't really seen much from the 70s, but you know there's stuff like Pieces, and then stuff like the Icebox Murders or Bloody Sex, but yeah, none of those are particularly stylish to my mind. Whereas you're right, even the kind of rank and file Italian gialli tend to have a bit more oomph.
Tend to be, and I don't want to say that that's a blanket statement. I've seen some Italian gialli that are just pretty there.
Oh, of course. But like you're even talking about like, it goes from the top down. You're like once you're adding like Lamberto Bava and Michele Soavi and like all of those people, like I tend to want to watch those movies. You know, they tend to have something interesting to look at in them.
Yeah, so I don't know, and possibly again, this is I'm saying a question for further research. I have been contemplating, you know, getting more into giallo than I already am, which is an insane thing for me to say, I think. But like, I don't know enough about the Spanish subset of the cycle, and I think that has been something for some months now. I've been thinking it really is a blind spot, and I probably should work on addressing it. So maybe this is the prod I need.
Yeah. Well, that's a beautiful thing about you, Tim. I'm glad you're thinking about these things. I'm glad you're working to make amends with the Spanish.
I'm saying I want to be better.
Yeah, of course.
I just want to be a more informed audience to these important artworks.
Of course. And that's partially what we're doing here, you know. Neither of us has seen Hatchet for the Honeymoon before. I'm really happy that we did. I think the next title we cover is probably not going to be as important to the giallo history. We're kind of moving away from that, but stay tuned for that next time, because we actually haven't picked it yet.
Indeed we have not. But yeah, last question. I know you haven't seen as much as I have, but where would you rank this among Bava films? Like mid-tier, high tier, low tier?
I guess mid-tier. I think my favorite's probably Blood and Black Lace. I don't know. I haven't seen that one in a really long time. I need to rewatch it. But I think Bay of Blood has a larger reputation than the movie itself can withstand. And I think Blood and Black Lace. Yeah, I mean, I think that movie itself is pretty great. It's got some great kills. It's really fun to watch. It's really kooky crazy. But I think Blood and Black Lace is just such a well-constructed, kind of beautiful horror movie.
Yeah, I mean, Blood and Black Lace is my favorite. I actually have Bay of Blood at number 3 because I would also say that Black Sunday is a film that I like more than Bay of Blood.
Okay, I have not seen Black Sunday. I need to. I also want to see Shock.
Quite good.
Okay.
I've seen Shock. It is the film of his I remember the least.
Okay,
I've just seen it, but I don't really remember it very well.
I've seen exactly one GIF from Shock, and I was like, I like that. But yeah, maybe we'll do a Bava unit at some point. Why not?
I would do that.
Yeah, that would be fun. And that's one where every title on the poll we'd probably be excited to watch, whichever one wins.
Yep.
But anyway, we've covered it, right? Wait, what about you? Where would you put Hatchet for the Honeymoon?
I would also have it mid tier. I think it's not as good as it's certainly not as good as Bay of Blood. Certainly not as good as Kill Baby Kill. It's probably not as good as The Girl Who Knew Too Much on average, but I think there are elements of it that I like better. I'd say it's sort of in that vicinity of a lot's going on here that I enjoyed. I mean, I'm at a 3.5 stars on this one. I think that's higher than you had on Letterboxd. So by and large, I liked what's going on. I wish it felt a little bit more like a whole thing. Whereas
Yes.
I'd say The Girl Who Knew Too Much feels like a whole thing, but the whole thing itself is not quite as interesting as the most florid, weird moments of this film.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and that's hard to rank. Wait, are there Bava films that you just kind of outright don't like?
There's only one Bava film that I think is straight up bad, and that is Dr. Goldfoot and the Girl Bombs from 1966, which is one of his non-horror films.
It's got a great title, though.
It's got a great title, but oh Jesus, it's hard to watch. It's a Vincent Price vehicle, but Vincent Price is clearly not 100% sure how he's supposed to be acting in the Italian production model, where there's not a microphone, which is robbing Vincent Price of his voice, which is a very important tool for Vincent Price.
Yeah.
So that one I think is just outright bad. The two that he took over from Riccardo Freda, which are kind of his first two movies, I Vampiri and Caltiki, the Immortal Monster, I don't think either one of them is bad, but they're not interesting, I don't think.
Okay, I will keep those towards the bottom of the list. I got other things to do.
Yeah, plenty of Bava that you need to catch up with.
Oh my God, yes.
Both horror and otherwise.
But yeah, I think
I just not to extend this, but I
That's
just
okay.
recently learned that there is an 8-episode miniseries adapting the Odyssey from 1969, which Franco Rossi was the lead director, but Mario Bava is one of the people who directed a couple individual episodes of that. So I'm potentially going to be catching up with that before the other Odyssey picture comes out later this year.
Oh, okay. I will love to hear your thoughts on that. I don't think I will rush out to see that particular one. Although, maybe the TV directing model is kind of different in Italy, but I feel like when someone's directing TV, they kind of vanish into the background.
Interesting.
But yes, that brings us to the end of another episode of Bride of Alternate Ending. You can find more episodes of this show and others on alternateending.com. Join the Patreon. You could have voted in a poll and got us to either watch this movie or something else. And the next episode coming out on this feed is going to be the May 2026 preview. I will be back with some familiar friends. And until next time, bye!